I'm trying to be serious. Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy, and today is February 10th, 2025. I appreciate y'all hanging in there while I was trying to bring my little up to full strength. There's a bug going around her school, and it was our lucky week to hang on to it, I guess. Either way, she's much better and having a great day. I appreciate the well wishes. Y'all are awesome people. It can be tough when the wife is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and I am working at the parenting solo gig here for a short while. So time management is a bit of a head spin at the moment, so thank you for bearing with me. This is definitely a juggle, but I love it. So if you dig news, history, or just humorous American hogwash, drop a blue heart in the comments and sit as bell. This morning, we got news that the intentions in Gaza are more glaring than ever, as Donald Trump has openly admitted that Palestinians won't have the right to return to their homes after the United States takes control over the territory. Trump's own administration, including members like Marco Rubio, has stated that what Trump wants is to help restore the area. This is either a lack of communication on their part or it's a blatant lie, and demonstrates that this administration was just as motivated to engage in actions that would be defined by the UN as genocide as we all thought. Since Trump has also chosen to pull us out of the UN's Human Rights Council, I'm going out on a limb to say that he doesn't give a shit. Trump's admission today falls in line with the idea that he and Netanyahu will forcibly remove an entire population from its own land, denying their rights to return, and they wish to replace the population with different groups, which fits the definition of ethnic cleansing. Indeed, the definition of genocide is killing members of a group, causing serious bodily harm or mental and emotional injury to that group, deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about its destruction, imposing measures intended to prevent births, such as sterilization and destruction of labor and delivery medical facilities, and forcibly transferring children out of that group and area as well. These are actions that Israel and the United States are complicitly engaged in and have been for years now. Keep in mind, a lot of detractors who have no wish to take seriously the events unfolding in the Middle East will say that because Trump hasn't ordered the mass killing of any particular group of people, then it doesn't count. This is not only incorrect, but it's also a dangerous misrepresentation of what we all should be able to see and clearly call out. Whether the international courts recognize it as such is another story altogether, although even if they did and called for Trump and Netanyahu's arrest for human rights abuses, reminder, the U.S. is voluntarily not a member of the ICC or International Criminal Court, which in itself is problematic given the influence and effectiveness of our own military machine. The ethnic cleansing that we are seeing now will lead to those deaths by detention of people refusing to leave and their treatment, or by threatening inhabitants of the area with death if they so choose to stay. The methods by which the two nations stand to engage in some horrific human rights abuses is lining up as clearly as it was in Bosnia, Myanmar, and Sudan. Trump's need to profit off of everything he sees is motivating him to turning what was once home to 2 million people and turn it into what he calls the Riviera of the Middle East. To those of you who say that he will need a large military force with which to accomplish these goals, you're absolutely correct. Contractors alone will not be able to take care of all of this. What Trump and his supporters think is that this was such a defeat that Palestinians will have to retreat to allied nations or West Bank, which is another area that Israel has slowly been encroaching upon. Few of them are caring to recognize the fragility of the regional security at this point. And the largest threat at this point is Iran, which doesn't really want an open war with the U.S. As hostile as it is towards us, they know damn well open war would be catastrophic. Where some of this gets intriguing, though, is the events that took place recently in Syria, as Bashar al-Assad's regime was incredibly helpful toward Hamas and other pro-Palestinian terrorist organizations, such as the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP. Syria was actively funding and supplying them, and now that he had to flee and a new government has come into power, it's unclear how they're going to approach all of this. And for the time, Syria may not be able to support its historic allies as the new power there tries to establish itself, and if that becomes a geopolitical sticking point, Middle Eastern peace with Western nations may be in question. North Korea is also a huge supporter of Palestine, but I don't see any way that they can actively engage themselves in this fight. Other powers in the region who may be none too thrilled about these proposals by Trump are Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. As such, Trump's capitalist goals are only going to add to the volatility and complexity that often defines the Middle East, as interests strategically and economically tend to be constantly evolving. But beyond the nation states who stand to take issue with this are the non-state actors, the terrorist cells who have actively engaged with Western military forces for decades now. Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, and IS are still currently waging what they feel is a religious war against oppressors, and we're the oppressors. While Trump says he won't use troops, he also then wavered and said that he couldn't rule out the deployment of U.S. troops, and what we stand to create is the largest, brightest bullseye for extremist organizations and the greatest recruiting tool for those groups for probably half a century. If you're unclear to the state of play, know that we will be welcoming ourselves to another multi-decade quagmire of violence and wasted tax dollars. There's no way in which the U.S. is not currently laying the groundwork for even more hostility and violence. These new decisions are more substantial than I think is being discussed. Donald Trump is walking us into another massive hornet's nest while also claiming that he was serious about annexing Canada and moving migrants to Guantanamo Bay. This is the point where I start to wonder how he plans on doing this without starting up his own conscription program, i.e. the draft. Using this pretense of war that he's openly gotten us into as an excuse to throw American kids into the meat grinder so he can try and replicate the Trail of Tears for Palestinians, so he can go and build some playground for the world's rich and famous. Not only is this disgusting and imperialistic, Trump's rhetoric is going to start getting average Americans targeted and killed, whether he means to or not. Heed the warning of this old veteran. Donald Trump is leading us to war. He's leading us into international turmoil that we have not faced. He's creating a newer, darker America who wishes to ramp up its incarceration of citizens and take land from its inhabitants. The only recourse many people across the world, inside and outside of the United States, may feel they have will be violence. I fear Trump's response to that may very well be what scares me the most, as he will never admit he is wrong and double down on his worst behavior. All I can say is that I hope someone at the State Department can get into this man's ear and talk some sense into him, because his cabinet of sycophants only seems interested in excusing his most outrageous foreign policy decisions. Anyway, if you stayed in here this long with me and dig the content, consider liking and subscribing. We need to actively keep a resistance to inhumanities and indecencies alive. And that means having the difficult talks and highlighting what sponsored programs won't or can't air. I need you in this, and I would like to think that you feel the resistance could use me in this as well. So until next time, fellow nerds, y'all come back now. Be here.